basically, gold just now gave a phantom type trade setup. And if you took it, you might be in a few ticks profit, but always be careful because when they're consolidating, they can do what they want. But a measured move is basically, and I've showed this a lot of times, we have a measured move tool, and you just simply draw it from one swing to the next and then bring it down to the swing. And see, that one came awful close, but it didn't quite get there. Okay, so I'm kind of expecting very possibly that this one will, but naturally you put your stop just right about where your box was if you happen to get in this trade at all. I'm not saying to take this trade, by the way. It's just simply a phantom type trade that's set up. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the other chart because I want to show basically a little bit more about what we experienced this morning with all the chop. I mean, we literally had chop city today, but you can still take some trades in this chop. The main thing is, though, that you have to be willing to take 10 ticks or a small trade. Some of our traders even take like 8 ticks and just get as quick as they possibly can, because if you don't, then what will normally happen is you'll end up burning your runner to begin with. And when it's choppy, you don't even have to try a runner if you don't want to. We've talked about this quite a few times because, you know, a day like today, if you're not careful, can kind of go after eating your lunch, so to speak. You got to be careful with it. And keep in mind also that if you stick with the overall trend that our charts show, then you'll probably be on the right side of the trade to begin with. Because keep in mind that, you know, we didn't just put these algorithms together on a whim. They're pretty good at predicting, you know, where these things are going. Okay, and our predictors are also good at support and resistance levels, even in chop, because we do get some of that at times, you know, where you can get it even in the choppy times. And it's just a matter of watching the predictors themselves. You know, here's an example right here. Remember, I called this trade this morning, but this rolled out of a predictor. It was just a perfect trade setup, and it rolled out of a predictor. Okay, and it also gave a mid-band type trade. So that's the type of trade that you can look for on a stair-stepping mid-band. Remember when we talked about this morning in the room even, to where if this decided to just keep going sideways, we were just going to simply scalp it. But if it did decide to stair-step, that we'd go ahead and look at taking a good trade. Okay, and that's what you got to do is you got to realize trending is so much better than sideways. But in sideways, you're going to literally take coin very, very quickly. You know, just like gold, just to give an example, like even right now, it basically went sideways. It gave you a quick trade, and then it came all the way back down, and it checked that low, and it's trying to bounce. But would you take that trade again? Or would you think, well, maybe this might even break down a little bit, so you want to be careful with it, right? So that's the key to it is, you know, take that coin. When they haven't been really heading up for a while, they're just pretty much what we call sideways, and you got to make sure that you trade it accordingly, okay? Anybody have any questions on that thus far? Because just let's look at it right here. Basically, when I even got up at 6 o'clock, right in this area right here, about 5:45, I think is when I got up, it had really just done this low and this high right here. That was pretty much your range at the time. And so do you see it taking out the lows? No. Do you see it taking out the highs? No. It was just pretty sloppy. See what I mean? But then when we got the open, sorry about that. When we got the open, it did actually give us a decent trade, which was right here. Okay. And also, if you didn't take it right there, then take it at the swing when it breaks a little swing. See the swing on the left? You can take it there. As a matter of fact, when it comes up through it and rolls over, you can take it short. And that's what you're looking for. If it would have decided to break up, then obviously it would have broken and come back and kissed like mid-band or a box or something like that. Okay, but it didn't do that. Okay. Let's see. I'm showing an oil chart because we were really, really sloppy on crude oil today, Andrew, until pretty much even after the room closed, which was right here at 10 o'clock. There was another trade that I was able to get right there, but it was just junk. You'll see this little trade right here just right after the room closed. I got that one, but it just barely took out the lows, hit the measured move. And this measured move was even from earlier. And that's what I want to teach tonight too, is how you can see these measured moves so that you can make some pretty good decisions on where to take your profit, okay? Because I had that drawn on my trading chart because this is where they kind of were looking for that measured move. And I'm going to show you that measured move. First off, when you do a measured move, realize that if they don't, let's say, for instance, this is your measured move right here, but then they go up here like this right here. See how perfect that measured move was right through there? That was even right after we closed the room, okay? It hit it on the money and then bounced and then rolled over. So if you'll learn to take profit, like for instance, I believe that this trade was called even right through here when it broke 20, if I remember right, or at least 15. And when it breaks that like that, then you kind of know where it's going if you draw your measured moves on your charts. Because measured moves will make a big difference in how much money you can make in trading. And keep in mind, like I said, when it's sideways, you know, I literally only did like $800 today, you know, $800. And that was trading even after the room closed because it was just one of those days that you wanted to kind of take 10 ticks and then wait for another trade setup and take 10 more. And then when it finally hit that measured move and got that little rollover, this little trade right here, I only took with one contract because I didn't trust it to actually go all the way down to the next measured move, which is your little bit larger. And I'll show you how I calculated that. Keep in mind, measured moves are just 100% moves. That's all a measured move is 100% and from a thrust or retrace to another thrust. Okay, and lots of traders use those. You know, to give an example, not that it will do it, but let's just say that you were looking for a measured move on crude oil for later. Well, there's your initial thrust, there's your retrace, and that would be your next thrust. Now, you got to keep in mind when you do measured moves too, though, that it works both ways. See, this would be your measured move if they decide to break up. But you've also got to look at the downside and see that you had a thrust down, a retrace, and you could have another thrust down, and this would be your measured move right here. Like so, okay? And it can do either one of them as far as that goes. Now, I like to look at, are they taking out previous highs? Are they getting higher lows? To see which one I think it's going to do. But you've got to realize too that when they do this choppy stuff like this right here, they can change on a whim. They can take you from the upside to the downside, and we've got to just be ready to take whatever they give us, because that's what we do. Is we are literally like little swing traders. We take these little micro swings. Just to give an example, this morning I'll show you something here real quick. Remember this morning in the room that we basically had a line drawn at 65.01, remember? And what did it do? It came down to 65.02 and bounced. So let me ask you a quick question. Even though this was a downtrend as far as the backgrounds and everything, do you see also where you can take this little trade? I even mentioned in the room, you have a little swing right across here at, what is that, 13? Let's see, where's that right there? That's, 13. Okay, and I think we went for 15 because the swing is also right there at 15. So could you take that trade long right there? And the answer is yes, we did. Okay. But you've also got to realize, though, that when you have this background like this, you do have phantoms. You can take those also. But I would highly recommend when you're in this choppy junk like this, scalp it. If you took gold, for instance, just now when I just mentioned another phantom boxed in, it already got 10 ticks. So you could already be out of that trade. That's how quick you can get out of trades if you want to be. Okay. Everybody understand what a measured move is? How to draw them on your chart? Because I find this little tool to be just totally invaluable. I love it. Because if you draw on your charts, you're going to find out that it works pretty well. Okay. And you can draw them, for instance, overnight, this was a high, this was a low. This was a low right here, even after I opened the room. So this was the low I was looking at. And all you got to do is draw that measured move, thrust, retrace, thrust, and it came down to right in that area right there. Okay. And you can kind of hold on for those measured moves really nicely. Okay. With a runner. Now, looking at this chart right now, what would you think is really happening on crude oil? Right this very moment. There's nothing really going on, so don't take a trade. But what would you do as far as if you were to decide to take a trade here? What would you do? You've got resistance at 64.99. Okay, so what if it was to decide to break that? Would you think that you might be able to get that if it breaks up and kisses that line? Because they do it all the time. Okay, now, by the way, if you were in that gold trade that I called out just for the fun of it, but it did bounce off of a phantom, and your target is 33.2420 and as high as 33.2480. That would be a good scalp. And you could already be out of it. It was a 10-tick trade. Okay. How many of you take quick trades and just kind of put some coin in your pocket on every trade that you can get your hands on? Because this morning, even though this was choppy, we still had some decent trades. But the smartest way to have traded it was 2 contracts and taken 10 ticks instead of holding a runner, because every single time you held a runner, they would take you out. So when you do 2 contracts and they take you out at break even or break even plus 2, you only make like $120 on a trade. And wouldn't it be better to make $200 on a trade instead? That's kind of key to it, isn't it? That bottom line dollars. Okay. Anybody have any questions on this so far? Our algorithms, by the way, when they change to this green background, this green midband, they're really telling you that they are trying their dead level best to head up. Okay. But you've also got to be smart in your trading and see that you have a high, you have a low, you have a lower high, you don't have a lower low, you got a lower high again, but you still don't have a lower low. So I look at this like if this breaks this area right here, this would head down, not up. But until it does, I'd be looking for these longs here. See, and you can take these when they break these little micro swings. I'll draw that. I showed my wife this morning. She hadn't really used Lightning that much, but it's a pretty good little tool. I even see it where it's a little bit more like this, but Lightning won't even draw there. But you can draw these boxes like across here, and if they break them, take the trade. But see, even Lightning 1 didn't show there because it's not a zigzag. Okay. Let me see real quick. Bear with me 1 second. Anybody have any questions before we go on? Because I think the whole idea of trading every single day, and I've said this 1,000 times, is that you want to clone your trades, you want to be careful with your trades, and you want to, as soon as you get some coin, kind of quit, okay? Because let's give an example. If you took gold just a few minutes ago, okay? If you're not out of it yet, what are they doing? Well, they've already didn't take out 33.2420 that I called out. See there, they just tagged it as all. Now the only way you could stay with this trade or go with this trade again would be if it breaks that box again. But they look like they might want to take it down a little bit. See what I mean? Now the way to take this trade, if you were to look at it, see it's starting to break down a little bit. Matter of fact, you could be short on it, but I don't think I would have shorted it yet. Let's check the fib just for the fun of it. You see, that's a 38% retracement on a big move to the upside, so I wouldn't be shorting that trade at all. See what I mean? You've always got to diagnose your charts before you just jump in. Okay, big move up, 38% retracement. I don't think I'd be taking it long with that red background, but still, it bounced off a 38% retracement. So where is gold heading if gold breaks up? Well, it would depend if it does a measured move, right? So what we could do with a measured move right now is draw it in real time, thrust, retrace, thrust. And of course, keep in mind that they could consolidate too. But this would be where gold would be heading if they're not exhausted and they would have to take out that top, right? Gold's on a pretty good tear to the upside, but see, they come deep each time too before they bounce. Okay, so if you were in this trade earlier, you got your 10 ticks, you got your 10 ticks, and then what did they do? You didn't want to hold on to anything, did you? That's to me, that's the whole key when they're sideways like this, just to take coin, get out of a trade, and then look for another one. Let's see if oil's doing anything at all. Let's see, oil's not going to do anything. During this room, you're just not going to get anything on crude oil because, frankly, you don't even get that much sometimes in the morning even, so why would they give it now? Okay? But you can easily draw on your charts, and you can see by doing measured moves, even the smaller measured move, okay? Here's a couple of them right here. Let me show them to you. Here's a measured move here to the downside, right? And here's a measured move here. Kind of, I'd probably even though it barely hit that, so I'd probably say from here that this would be about where it would be shooting for, somewhere up in this area, and see that's pretty good mathematically to begin with, okay? So that wouldn't be bad to look for at all. But keeping in mind that it could do this measured move too. And when you're sideways like this, again, scalp it. You know, draw your little boxes along the lows. You know, for instance, before, right around 1 o'clock my time, they did this little pop right through here. So if you drew a box, they had a trade here, a trade here, and a trade here. And that's what I like to do myself, is use these little regions like a band. Draw your band and take it, like say from 2 to 3, take your trade. That works quite well. How many of you were short on gold instead of seeing that it bounced off of a 38% retracement? It's still trying to head up, but it's having trouble. Okay, I got everybody here tonight, right? I'm not getting a lot of questions because this is fairly basic, but we get a lot of new members and things, and so this is pretty important. Stair-stepping, Janetta, well, basically, stair-stepping, if you get into your trading room and you see this right here, that's flatlined, just like if you were at the hospital and your heart stopped, flatlined. Okay, that's kind of a gruesome analogy, but it's the truth, right? It just totally flatlined. So if you flatline like that, then what would be the idea of taking long trends? You're just going to want to scalp, because if you don't just scalp, then you're going to end up being basically holding a runner that's going to get stopped out almost every single time. Okay, so when it's flat like this, and this is a good example of even versus this morning when we traded, because this is real-time stuff. Okay, so this is a flatline midband. So if you don't even want to do anything with this until they either break down stair-stepping or up stair-stepping, that's a smart way to trade, unless you want to scalp it. Now, our power dots do a pretty good job of getting you in the trade, but you got to kind of put a stop accordingly. Because if you think about it, let's say, for instance, that this trade right here at about 1 o'clock, that's the low right there, right? So see how they just tagged it again? They do that so many times you could set your clock, your watch by it. Literally, you could set your watch by it, because that's what they do. They constantly check these. When it's flatlining, they're going from one end to the other, just basically. A zigzag would be like this right here. Remember in the room this morning, I even said that I don't like the idea of this flatlined, but I did like the idea of a stair step. So you had stair stepped earlier, but for 4 solid hours, they didn't stair step again, and that's how we got that trade. Because when you stair step, then your retracements are good and legit retracements. You don't have to worry about them as much. Okay, but when they're just flatlined like this, you know, like this was earlier, and this was even when I opened the room, that's why we were just scalping little breaks of swings and taking 10 ticks. Some of our traders were taking phantoms to the downside, getting 10 ticks. Remember, even though, pardon me, even though we took a couple of these trades, remember I even mentioned here that we got a higher low, so we boxed this in even, and it got a 10-tick trade. But then I mentioned to everybody that it also did a phantom rollover. So for people that were long here, then a lot of our traders even will go ahead and short it when they see these. Well, just turn on your power dots or turn on your phantom power dot, and you can get that trade. But you know, we're kind of in the middle of the summer, right? So there's going to be a little bit more noise, so to speak. You know, this is also a week that a lot of people are going to the lake, stuff like that. So keep in mind that when it's this type of movement, then you're going to want to scalp it. You know, would you get in this trade right now on oil? No, it already happened down there at that box. And if you weren't in it, you don't want to get in it. Okay. Now, if it did decide to go ahead and bounce and come back and kiss, you could certainly get into it. See, when you're glad you didn't get in that gold that third time. I don't like third times on trades hardly at all, unless what do they want to do? We want them to stair step. And if they'll stair step, we can get a decent trade set up. Okay? Let me see if there's any other questions coming in on that particular deal. Would volume be a tip-off of flatline? Well, Andrew, it really would, but I found that a lot of times volume is just too late. You know, in other words, the 10 ticks has already happened because the volume's there. And I just like taking these little breaks. If they break these little swings or we get these little power dots, these mid-band power dots and stuff, I'd take a trade like this. Now, probably not this time of day, but let's say that you took this trade here, you took it again here, you're basically at about break even right now. Now, I wouldn't personally take this time of day, though. During the room, this would be a good trade. But keep hitting the wrong button. But you're kind of seeing what goes on. They pretty much just totally what? They flatline. And when they flatline like that, guess what? Go get you a cup of coffee, go run around the block, you know, get your juice, whatever you want to do. But don't just keep chasing trades because you're going to get bit. And getting bit in trading is not good. Just to give an example, gold right this very moment is coming really, really close to a 50%. Will it bounce there? Well, but to take it, wouldn't you have to take out a swing? You'd have to take out a swing, right? So I wouldn't be just jumping in that trade by any means. Okay? So learn to see, if you get up in the morning and you're flatlined, okay? Let's say right here is where I open the room at 7:30, right here. Okay? See how flatlined this was? I mean, this had been flatlined on the mid-band since 4:30 in the morning all the way to us opening the room at 7:35 or so. See what I mean? So why would you want to take anything but a scalp? And even a scalp is risky because you can get on the wrong side of a trade pretty easily. And I recommend if you're going to scalp, personally, I think you ought to do it kind of like Bob does, kind of like a lot of our people, and don't even try to go for 10 ticks, but try to go for 8 or 9. Because 10 ticks is a good trade, and a lot of algorithms are set to 10 ticks, and they retrace on you. Okay? So be careful with things like that, okay? But remember in the room, though, I physically said with my mouth that I don't like this flat line. We need a stair stepper, and that's your step. See, this had been stair stepping back here at 4 o'clock in the morning, stepped. But since 4 o'clock in the morning until I opened the room, it was flatlined. But look at that beautiful trade right there. That's all you needed for the day was that beautiful stair step trade with a couple of contracts. You're up like $500 at least. See what I mean? Anybody have any questions on that so far? Because if you'll learn to just either scalp it when it's flatlining like that or just stay out until it decides to trend again, that's a smarter way to trade. Because otherwise, a lot of times you just catch like a falling knife or you don't get 10 ticks. You might get 10 ticks, you might not, you know. But when they're flatline like this, just don't do them. They stair step. There's another trade right after 10 o'clock. See it? Stair stepped. That was that other one that I took. And keep in mind, I only did this one even with one contract because I didn't trust it. But when you get up down here to this low and they still go down a little bit and then they pop back up, get out. Okay? So let's look at it even right now. It's absolutely just like a monitor, isn't it? Just literally, just totally flatlined. But you can tell how to do it simply by drawing on your chart, right? For instance, if you're more of a conservative trader, okay, and when I mean conservative, you don't want to get in anything that's not really trending and going your way, then the way to do this would be simply stay out of any of this, period, until this mid-band stair-stepped. And I'll show you what it would look like. Now, keep in mind, you've got support right down here. All right. If you get a higher low, they could easily take it up, but do you know they will? No, you don't. So basically, if they did decide to stair step this, then you could look to very possibly short it. But what if they're just faking you here and they pop it back above mid-band? That's because it's sideways. It's just sideways as all get out right now. It's right there at that support level. So what do smart traders do in a case like this? You trade with the trend, little breaks with lightning, and if it goes against you hardly at all, you want to get out of it. If it breaks a little swing and stays broken above the swing, then try to get those 10 ticks. When it's not even moving like it is right now, there's no trades. It's totally a range. And a very poor range, as a matter of fact, from 83 to 65 even approximately, just a few ticks above. That's literally only, what, 17, 20 tick range. It's not big enough to trade because you can't get 10 ticks out of it. Now, will you get it later? Mark my words, by morning, you'll be able to see a stair stepper on that chart. And there will be some good trade setups on that chart by morning. Everybody agree with that? So our job as a trader is to diagnose our charts. And keep in mind in the room that I also call aggressive trades. So we did take a couple of aggressive trades and we got 10 ticks. But you did not have to take a single trade when this was, what was it doing? It was literally flatlining when I opened the room this morning. It was still flatlining. Okay? And when it's flatlining, you don't want it. Okay, see how that's bouncing off the 90? That area's just been holding pretty good all day for the most part. So we as traders have to just decide, when do we want this trade? Frankly, I don't like it at all. But if it did stair step, you could probably count on the fact that you would get you a decent trade setup. Measured moves, predictors, watch them. See how those predictors are just totally side by side right now, just a one up, one down, one up, one down. They're just, but the two on the right are a little ahead of the others. So it's just garbage right now. You're not going to do anything when it's just garbage like it is right now, because you're not going to get any kind of a trade setup when it's garbage like this. How long would you have to wait? Somebody just asked. Until it changes. If you were looking at like a 5-minute chart, you haven't hardly seen any bars form at all. They're just side by side. There's nothing going on. Let's look at gold real quick and see if there's anything at all. We'll go ahead and turn on. Well, I don't have a gold, but I do have an ES. We'll do gold. Okay, see gold right now. So you're getting a low, a high, and keep in mind I did draw a Fibonacci, but it did stair step the mid-band. See there? Now, this is where you need to make a decision too. Okay, if this comes up to mid-band, like right in through here and rolls over, then that would mean it would be holding this resistance right there. That's your line in the sand long short. Okay, as long as this is stair stepping down, you are looking for shorts, but keep in mind with that kind of a move, they're liable to shoot you right in the foot, because I like to look at the overall trend too, especially if you bounce off of a Fibonacci. See, that so far is not even a 50% yet. They may tag the 50 though, and they may take it out too. But keep in mind that right now you're not in anything because you didn't take a break. There's nothing going on. It's just retracing right now. There's nothing to look at. But you still got to draw on your chart and see where could I get in this trade if it did decide to break down or up. Well, let's just see what it does, just for the fun of it. You got a low, you got a high, you got a higher low so far, but you do have a low, high, lower low right down here. So this is very aggressive right here. This is a little bit more conservative right there if they decided to break up. Now keep in mind, if they were to kiss this area right here and miss it by a couple of ticks and get a lower high, they could easily check that low. Okay, because in a downtrend, you're looking for lower highs and lower lows. Right now, you're getting a low, a high, a lower low. On the right-hand side, you're getting a low, a high, a higher low. So it's just nothing right now. And probably won't do anything while we got the room open because there's nothing really going on. Anybody have any questions on any of this so far? What I try to do even in that room is to show some of these setups and everything. And keep in mind that I shouldn't even have to say it. If it's flatline midband, you want to scalp. If you want to take a chance at a runner, then go for it. But keep in mind, see how that just kissed resistance and rolled? It was fairly quick though. But I think it's going to actually break up. It looks like it wants to. But we'll see. I mean, even this time of night, even gold isn't moving that much. You want to take a look at, somebody said, like, you want to diagnose the same thing on NQ? That might lock me up with a webinar though. I don't think I want to do that. Let's see, Andrew says, bear with me a second. I brought this over so I can read it. So Janetta, when I say zigzag, you mean stair stepping? Yes, a zigzag is technically a stair step. Keep in mind, if you think about a true stair step, let's say that this is the entrance to your house right here, okay? And you said, okay, this is a step. Obviously, that's going to be just a beautiful vertical step. This is called a stair step, but you don't get that when you're trading. It's called a zigzag. Okay, this doesn't happen in trading as a rule. It's usually going to be more of a zigzag. So you'll get a little pop up, a little pull back, and then another, like a zigzag. Okay, that's the way trading does. It doesn't afford you the luxury of saying it's an actual step. They're kind of diagonal. They'll kind of dent your toes as you walk on them. See what I mean? It's not what I call a true stair step. Now the midband does quite a bit of a true stair step because you get a little angle over and then another one down. See, this is a true stair stepping midband right now. But just like I'd mentioned, this is also a very big uptrend. So I'd be very, very careful with shorts on this. And I've even drawn where I think it would break up if it does, but it is trying to roll over. See, so far it just hit a predictor just like I was teaching. Okay. Let's just watch it for a few minutes. Since the best way to learn something is, where you're not even trading yourself, but you're just watching the chart itself. What is this doing right this very second? Well, it's kind of zigzagging. Let me draw it for you. See, so far you've got a low, a high, a higher low, barely higher high. It's like an ABC. Let's check Lightning 1, see what it's doing. See, Lightning 1's a little bit more zigzaggy. But you do have a low, a high, a higher low, higher high just barely. They did roll over though. I drew the line. If you happen to short it, you're up about 5 ticks. Only thing I don't like about gold, if you're on the wrong side of it, that 5 ticks can disappear before you even, yeah, somebody said, yeah, faster than you change your shirt. It's amazing how fast gold can move sometimes. Not this time of day though. because this isn't the time you're going to want to trade. But you do still want to diagnose the chart and see what could possibly happen. Could gold check 50%? Well, it looks to me like they just barely checked the 38 and kind of bounced through it. And let's watch it. If you draw your zigzag from this side, let me just draw it for you. See, I just kissed that resistance right there. Now that's a true rollover right there, but again, I'd be careful with gold, because gold, if it decides to go up on you, it can literally leave you sitting in the dirt. And I don't personally like to go against gold unless I got that first trade where it kissed that line I drew there and rolled over. Let's just watch the zigzag. Lightning will literally draw in pretty close to real time with a lightning too. But so you can already tell by looking at this that, see your little zigzag, you got a low, you got a high, you got a higher low, you got a higher high, you got a higher low, you got a little higher high. This is what we consider to be your line in the sand, or pardon me, your identified swing, okay? Now let's look and see where gold could head possibly if gold got a measured move. You could use this measured move here, which is only going to be about maybe 10, 15 ticks more than this right here. So draw your measured move like so. And that would be your measured move right there. And keep in mind that this could easily still roll over, because that is a stair-stepping midband. See what I mean? My wife always likes to say, well, look at that green stealth. And I've started really watching those too, because when you get those green stealths, it's looking at 20 periods. So, that's pretty substantial. Will this go ahead and take out this little swing that I drew just a few minutes ago and keep it taken out? We'll see. If it takes out 33, 21, 40, they'll head down. But you got to be careful, because that could just be a higher low. See how it's just trying to do it, and then the bulls kind of kick it again. There's your pink power dot though. Now, usually if I take a trade like this right here, I'm going to put a pretty tight stop on that, because frankly, with this bouncing on gold, I'd be a little leery of that trade. But it is rolling over. Like we say all the time, it is what it is. Let's just see if it zigzags at all. Who's bet? Will it roll over, or will it go ahead and get a higher low? We'll see. Our power dots are pretty good at this. See, because you got a power dot right there, but gosh, you'd be in right there. I don't like that trade at all. I'd still be looking for a break myself. Gold's just kind of meandering so far though, isn't it? Everybody see what we're doing on the chart though? We're just trying to draw stair-stepping midband. Yes, you could be short on the midband, but if it went back to midband, I'd be out of that trade in a heartbeat. Because you can't just let it go, well, I'm thinking it's going to stop here, but I'll put my stop here. No, because if it's stair-stepping up, it's liable to just keep on trucking. Yeah, this is a gold chart right now. And the chart time, by the way, is Central Time, because this is 1840 area, which is right now 640. You like kind of diagnosing these in real time? Anybody? It works. Just watch this, see if it zigzags. Where would the target be on this trade if they did decide to take it on up? Well, looking left to trade the right, I kind of see swing through here, but it's not real strong at 33.2380. Here's pretty strong right there at 33.2420. Let's see what it does. We'll just diagnose this puppy in real time. This is good practice, Andrew? Well, I went over the measured moves. I think anybody can draw a measured move, because you can draw them from small moves to larger moves. And the larger the move, the more retraces they're going to do before they get there. Okay, where the smaller moves, you'll usually get them. Let me show you a measured move that it's already hit. I saw it with my third eye. But see, basically right here where you had this thrust up, 1, 2, 3, pull back, that's the measured move is right there at the top of that box. And if it breaks it, obviously it could do the larger measured move too, right? Gold's on a tear to the upside, mercy be. So let me ask you a question. Even though that had a stair-stepping midband, how do we diagnose it in real time, everybody? Well, it did break enough to change the midband and even stair-step it. But did I mention a short, or did I mention more longs through there if you wanted to wait for a little pullback and grab a long trade? And let me show you something you can use too. Now keep in mind, this could roll too, but let me show you something here. I've showed this before. And so far, it just rolled though, see it? It just almost hit that measured move that I called out. See it? Just within a tick. That's why you're getting the retracement there, because that was a measured move. See how that works? So if you get in a trade and you get close to even a measured move, then take some coin. Now, if it gets a higher low, they'll take it out. See how they're trying to? That's definitely a measured move there, isn't it? Let's see what it does. See how to draw measured moves, everyone, in real time even? And keep in mind, if you were scalping that, I think I'd probably be pretty much taking coin. But what if it does decide to go ahead and head up? Well, then your runner would have to be below that green dot where that little wicked candle is. See, this is a little bit more relaxing too, because I'm not trading right now and I'm trying to call you some setups, and you're not trading either. You're just watching the chart. And I did call 33.2420 if it can get there. And 33.26 would be the very top. We drew that measured move perfectly, but see, it is trying to take it out. Now keep in mind, a smaller measured move, they're made to be taken out, but they're also made to be taking profit on at least a contract if you're in two. The next stop on the bus, Andrew, I look at it to be 33.2420. If you look for a measured move that's more of an ABC type move, like ABC, let's look at that and see what that might be. ABC, because that's not a measured move. Thrust, retrace, thrust. That's like a 1, 2, 3. So I like to count 1, 2, 3s myself. So there's 1, pullback, 2. So there's 1, 2, 3. So then that's your measured move, and it did already hit it. See, perfectly. Now we haven't hit this measured move, obviously, but keep in mind, anytime you're trading, you've got to look to the left to trade the right. If that takes out 33.2420, they could blow all the way to that top in a heartbeat if they want to. But your job as a trader is to go ahead and take coin. If you were up nicely as I was even drawing that, could you be in that trade and be up 10 ticks and say, hey, you know what, I just made $200, right? Let's just stick around 10 more minutes and we'll just do this in real time. If that gets a lower high, they'll take it down. They've got to take out 33.2420 to really head up. And they've got a zigzag to do it too. In other words, higher lows and higher highs. See how you're getting higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher low, little higher high. That's the key to it right there. Now, by morning, could they do this measured move? Well, yes, they could. But I don't think I'd just walk away and think it would and, leave a tight stop on, because, yeah, it could easily get up there. Well, let me ask you a quick question. If you were in this trade right now, from where we were talking about it, where could you put a stop? Because I'm actually flagging some people evidently that already do have a trade in this real quick, because you can see that you've got a high, you've got a low, you've got a higher high right there. This little swing right across here is your micro lightning swing. And they'll usually wick those or they'll close below them, but your true swing is all the way down here. And I don't think I put my stop down there because you got in pretty much there. See what I mean? We'll just keep an eye on it and just see what it does. And so far, it's nothing but almost a phantom mid-band type rollover until it takes out 33.2420. They're not heading up yet, but they are trying. Or could exit at that red power dot. Yeah, you could do that too, Andrew. Definitely. When that got that red power dot with that 1, 2, 3 reversal, you could be flat. I don't think I would have reversed it though, but you could definitely take it off the table there. See how those green stealths kind of tell you what they're doing though? Will this continue to head up? It's hard to say the way it's doing right now. You're getting a lower high. But it is what it is. It's still stair-stepping so far. Let's see if we can do another measured move. 1, 2. You could think this is 3. Instead of this being 3, this could be 3. 1, 2, barely, and then 3. So it'd be more like this. Let's see if that mathematically works. So in other words, up to here is leg 1. And that's leg 2. And that would be leg 3. And mathematically, that's pretty close to that swing over here to the left. So, see how they wick those? This is what they do. They check them. See where they check that 33.2290? And they rejected taking it out. That doesn't mean they still will if they decide to, but so far they rejected it, didn't they? So now we've drawn another measured move if it can get up there. But I would still, if I was in this trade with real money, I'd be protecting it right there at 33.2420 or a break of that line that I had drawn, whichever happens first. Okay, and you can always put it to where it's like 2 ticks under it or something like that. Keep in mind that usually when they want it, they get it. But it is what it is. You can even put an exit on close on it too, a couple of ticks underneath it. Everybody kind of see what's going on in these markets like this? Even when it's slow like this, you can still diagnose them and tell where they should be going, okay? And you've got to remember, though, that if they do decide to roll over, this is a stair-stepping mid-band. This could easily do a phantom and roll over. But if they take out the swing with a vengeance, then they probably won't. But see, so far they're just dilly-dallying. There's nothing. Okay? Pretty good way to trade, though, if you just diagnose your charts. Because if you took that trade anywhere in there where I was drawing it, saying it was heading up, you got yourself 10 ticks. I wonder what would happen if a lot of traders took delivery on gold. That's a good question, Andrew. You know, we're going to have volatile markets for some time because, I mean, the big, beautiful bill, you know, who knows? I mean, I've heard of some stuff in there that is really going to go even against our privacy and everything. I think it was called the Genius Act or something like that. Might look into that. It has to do with Palantir and some of that AI stuff. But you kind of get to the point you almost want to just give up on these bozos to begin with because you can't do a thing about it, and you just got to live your life. And just remember that you're a sovereign person, and if they ever pass laws that go against your right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then it's illegal. Don't obey. And they're doing that all over the world, by the way. There's people going to jail for just their, whatever their thoughts are. See how that did roll over there on a little pink power dot? So what are they doing now? Well, they check this swing. It did stop you out, by the way. But if it gets a higher low, they'll take out that top. See how they're trying to hold that area right there? That's why these really, really tight stops will almost get you every time. But if you draw on your chart and you see lightning, then you can see the lightning's all the way down here. Okay? Any questions on this? Because this is exactly the way I diagnose every chart that I trade. And when it's sideways, you're either going to stay out or you're going to scalp. If it's trending, then go the direction of the true trend. Don't fall for these little breaks, you know, even if they stair-step the mid-band, because all they did is came down and checked close to a 50% retracement. And with gold on a tear to the upside like that, I wouldn't touch a short with a 10-foot vaccinated crowbar myself. But doesn't mean that it might not happen later. But is that stair-stepping down or up? It's stair-stepping up. So when it does that, even if it changes backgrounds and everything, and you've got to move like this, that's kind of hard to short in my opinion. Anybody, any final questions before we wrap? Look at those power dots even along in there. You want to stick around a couple of minutes? We'll see if it hits my line. We'll just see. By the way, ask any questions while we're waiting here. I'll be more than happy to answer them, because one thing that I do is I firmly believe in teaching people to trade our system. Yeah, by the way, did y'all hear about that where they set up those firemen today? I mean, you talk about a cold-hearted person that would actually set a fire to shoot firemen. You don't know what I would like to do to people like that. That is just amazing. Men that want to go home to their families, women that want to go home to their families and do that kind of stuff is just absolutely so wrong. The guy wanted to be a fireman at one time. Well, you could tell he was a mental case to begin with. It's pure evil. It is pure evil. I don't understand why our world has actually turned the way it has. But our Lord even said evil men would wax worse and worse. And are they waxing worse and worse? Yeah, definitely. But, just think, if you were going to work in a first responder job, sure, they could die in a fire or something like that, but to be shot by a sniper, that just breaks your heart. You just don't see, what those families are going through, because that's not ever on the news. There you go, just hit it. But it's just pure evil. That's all there is to it. And one thing about it, as being a Christian and loving the Lord with all my heart, I still have a major, major justice part of me that wants justice done. And even on this earth, because we have laws, we have ways to stop these people. Look at this thing go. We have ways to make sure that people are taken care of so that they don't get back out on the streets doing these things. And we should be able to do that. It's just pure evil, the things that go on. It's just wrong. And I swear, unless the internet changed it all, that this didn't used to happen when I was first married back in 1972. And it sure didn't happen when I was a kid. I mean, people were, well, I can tell you this, you could walk through a supermarket in the old days and go on the next aisle to pick up something, and a lady's purse would still be there. Nowadays, you could have it the lady could have it wrapped around her arm and it'll still get stolen. It's just weird times. Did y'all see that measured move called out? See how those work? In real time, they work. I rest my case. That was pretty good, wasn't it? See how that perfectly? Why did I do that again? Everybody's going to be weird people saying, you got a lot of blue screen. But anyway, see, it held this swing right here. It's getting higher low so far. But keep in mind that it hit right where I said it would. See how beautiful that is to take coin? Do you have to hold on to this trade? No, it hit. The beauty of measured moves is you draw them and you put your target a couple of ticks, maybe 3 ticks underneath them. And then you don't have to put up with this garbage that's happening right now because are they going to do a thrust and a pullback and then blow it through the top again, or are they going to change directions? They even went to a pink midband now. Sideways Charlie. Will it head on up? Well, now you could draw a measured move again. Let's do it. Let's get rid of lightning. Well, we'll leave lightning on there. But here's your measured move now, if this is your new low. And mathematically, it's just right at that top. Will it get there? Well, I wouldn't be waiting for it because I already called that trade, and you hit it perfectly at the measured move. And again, these measured moves can be real good place to get out. And look how Predictor even predicts it too. So why wouldn't you get out of that trade where I actually said to get out? Did it go all the way to the top? No, but it did a beautiful measured move. And that wasn't in playback or anything. That was real-time stuff. And all you got to do is draw on your charts. All right. Well, everyone, we can wrap. And it's 7:03, and I'll be in the room tomorrow morning. I'm hoping that we get some trending tomorrow on oil because it didn't trend so much today that it might trend tomorrow. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But as usual, though, I'll look at the chart, and if it's flatlining, I'll warn everybody just to scalp. If it's trending, we see a stair-stepping midband, we're going to jump in with those midband trades and box them in and things like that and get some good trade setups. Okay. I had several people call me today. As a matter of fact, Scott, I talked to earlier. He said he wanted to see some of this, how you trade this when it's choppy. And this is exactly how you do it. You draw on your charts, you diagnose it perfectly with Fibonacci's and things, and you draw your measured moves of right where they're going to hit. And you notice that when they hit it, they rejected it and said, nope, we're coming down some. Now, are they going to go up and test this measured move again here? Very possibly. Gold's on a tear to the upside. But look how deep it went. That's why so many people lose in trading. They don't know how to draw on their charts. And if you don't get out of that trade when you draw those measured moves and you hit those predictors, then you're going to be that last puppy on mama. You're going to be on the last draw, and you'll be waiting for the milk, so to speak, because that last puppy doesn't get fed. You got to get out of these trades. That was a weird analogy, wasn't it? Anybody have any questions? I'll go ahead and wrap. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And keep in mind, this was in real-time stuff. So if you draw on your charts like this, you had your target sitting right at the top of that box, just like I drew it. Could you have made a quick $300 or $400? Yes. Okay. Good old range trade. Absolutely, Scott. Now you're totally sideways. What do you do now? You're sideways all the way since 6 o'clock or so now. So what are you doing? You're waiting for it to actually do its thing. Stay out for a while. Absolutely. Okay, everyone. Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the morning, and we're going to take some trades. And again, today, like I said, I literally didn't get to my $800 until I traded some after the room closed because it was just sloppy choppy. And it was too scary to get in 2 or 3 contracts. I don't even like to get in 2 contracts unless it goes my way instantaneously and it stays away from where I got in. Because with 2 contracts, if you get a 12-tick pullback, you're going to be pulling $240 before you get to break even again. And that's no fun. And I talk to traders all the time that'll get down like 1,000. They have to pull back out of it. It's hard to pull out of $1,000 on a choppy day. All right. That's exactly right. Tom says the runt gets the last one. That's exactly right. And we're not runts. We like to take these trades. We like to draw them on our charts, call them where they're going. And keep in mind, since that got a lower high than this one down here, they're liable to retrace this first. But if you're happen to jump back in gold, just be careful with it and draw your measured move. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the morning. Adios. Bye-bye. Several people said this webinar helped a lot. Well, thanks. Well, I try to make them as informative as possible. And I don't mind doing it with real time because we do it in the room all the time.